The Galactic Council chamber was silent as the doors opened. Ella Martinez walked in slowly, her human legs still getting used to the lighter gravity. She was the first human to ever enter this room. The Council had existed for over 10,000 years, with hundreds of species from all over the Milky Way, but none of them were like humans. Ella looked around the large round room. 50 alien representatives sat in rising seats that formed a circle. They looked very different from each other. Some had many arms, others had scales, and a few floated in the air without any visible body. But they all watched Ella with the same curious eyes. "Welcome, Earth representative," said the head counselor, a tall purple being with silver eyes. "We are pleased to finally meet your species." Ella nodded and approached the center platform. "Thank you for inviting Earth to join the Galactic Council. We are honored." The aliens murmured to each other. They had discovered Earth just 6 months ago, when one of their exploration ships detected radio signals. First contact had been made through radio messages, and now Ella was here to formally introduce humanity. "Please tell us about your world," said a small green creature with 3 eyes. Ella smiled and pressed a button on her wrist device. A hologram appeared, showing the blue and green Earth spinning slowly. "This is our home planet. We call it Earth. It's the 3rd planet from our sun." The council members leaned forward with interest. Ella continued, showing images of Earth's cities, mountains, and oceans. "Our planet is covered mostly by water. About 70% of the surface is ocean." A strange sound came from the council members. It sounded like gasps and whispers of shock. "Did you say water? On the surface?" asked the head counselor, his voice suddenly tense. "Yes," said Ella, confused by their reaction. "Most of our planet is covered in water. Is that unusual?" The council chamber erupted in loud voices. Some members stood up, pointing at Ella. Others backed away from their seats. Ella didn't understand what was happening. She was thirsty after her long speech, so she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small bottle of water. The simple action made the entire room freeze in horror. "She's carrying it. She's carrying liquid death," shouted a bug-like alien near the front. "Please remain calm," said Ella, opening the bottle. "It's just water." As she lifted the bottle to her lips and took a drink, the room exploded into chaos. Alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed on the walls. "Containment breach, containment breach," announced a computer voice. Ella stood bewildered as clear barriers rose from the floor, surrounding her platform. The council members were running in all directions, screaming in various languages. The head counselor, who had moved behind a protective shield, spoke through a speaker. "Human, you have just consumed a Class A corrosive substance that dissolves all silicon-based life forms in our galaxy. How are you still alive?" Ella looked at her water bottle, then back at the terrified aliens. This is just water. All humans drink it. We need it to live." The silence that followed was deeper than before. The head counselor spoke again, his voice filled with disbelief. "You require the galaxy's most dangerous substance to survive. Your bodies can withstand direct contact with H2O." Ella nodded slowly, beginning to understand. "Yes, humans are about 60% water ourselves." The head counselor fainted. 3 other council members followed. Medical teams rushed into the chamber as the containment field around Ella glowed brighter. "Security protocol activated," said the computer voice. "Human representative quarantined for further study." Ella sighed and sat down on the floor of her containment bubble. First contact was going to be much more complicated than anyone on Earth had expected. She took another sip of water, causing several more aliens to faint at the sight. 3 days after the incident in the council chamber, Chief Medical Officer Gary Patterson arrived at the space station. He stepped off the human transport ship with a heavy medical case. 2 council security guards met him at the dock, wearing full protective suits. "I'm here about Ambassador Martinez," said Gary, trying to look friendly despite the guards' fearful postures. One guard held out a scanning device but kept his distance. Follow us. Do not open any containers of the substance without warning." Gary sighed. The trip from Earth had been long, and the message about Ella's situation had been confusing. Now he understood the problem. These aliens were terrified of water. They led him through sealed corridors to a laboratory area. Inside, he saw Ella sitting in a large clear chamber. She looked bored but unharmed. "Gary." "Thank goodness," she said, her voice coming through speakers. "Please explain to these people that I'm not dangerous." A tall, slender alien with blue skin and 6 fingers on each hand approached Gary. The alien wore what looked like a sealed environmental suit. "I am Kizter, head xenobiologist of the Galactic Council," the alien said. "Are you also composed of the corrosive substance H2O?" Gary nodded. "Yes. All humans are mostly water, about 60% of our body mass." Several assistants in the room backed away. Kizter's eyes widened, but the scientist held position. "Fascinating and terrifying," Kizter said. "May I examine you under strict safety protocols?" For the next few hours, Gary allowed the alien scientists to scan his body. They were amazed by the water flowing through his veins, filling his cells, and even coming out as sweat on his skin. "Your entire planet is covered in this substance?" asked Kizter, looking at images of Earth's oceans. "Yes. Our oceans cover about 70% of Earth's surface. We swim in them for fun." The room fell silent. One assistant dropped a tool and ran from the room. "You enter the substance willingly." Kizter could barely form the words. Gary pulled up a video on his tablet. It showed children playing in a swimming pool, splashing each other. The aliens watched in horror. "This is what we call a beach day," Gary explained as the video showed families at the ocean. "It's very normal for us." Kizter turned to the other scientists. "I believe we are witnessing the most remarkable adaptation in the known galaxy. These humans don't just resist water, they require it." The laboratory doors opened, and a group of uniformed humans entered. First Officer Natalie Rodriguez led the diplomatic team that had just arrived from Earth. "We brought the samples you requested," Natalie said, holding up a sealed case. With careful movements, Gary opened the case. Inside were different containers of water: ocean water, tap water, and bottled spring water. The alien scientists gathered around with a mixture of fear and fascination. "Please step back," Gary warned. "I'm going to open one sample." He opened a bottle of spring water and poured some into a clear dish. The aliens gasped collectively. "It would dissolve my hand in seconds," Kizter said quietly. "Yet you drink it." News of the water-resistant humans spread quickly through the station and across the galaxy's communication networks. Within hours, every species in the Council knew about the bizarre humans who were immune to the deadliest substance known. In the Council's private chambers, leaders debated what this meant. Some saw humans as potential allies with unique abilities. Others feared them as indestructible monsters who could bring water weapons against their enemies. As evening came, Ella was finally released from her quarantine chamber. The Council had much to learn about humans, and humans had much to learn about a galaxy where the most common substance on Earth was considered deadly poison everywhere else. 1 week after the water revelation, Admiral Alan Richards arrived at the Galactic Council station. He wore his full military uniform with all medals displayed. The Council had called for a special closed session to discuss the military implications of human water immunity. Alan walked into the Council chamber with 4 armed guards. Unlike the previous meetings, this one had only 12 Council members present. They sat in a half-circle, their faces serious. "Admiral Richards, thank you for coming," said the head counselor. "We have concerns about Earth's military capabilities." Alan nodded. "I understand. We come in peace, but I'm happy to explain our defense systems." A large red alien with a shell-like back stood up. He had small eyes and a harsh voice. "I am Counselor Draxil of the Pyronian Empire," he said. "We believe humans are not natural beings. You must be bioweapons created by our ancient enemies. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Alan kept his face calm despite the accusation. That is not true, he said. Humans evolved naturally on Earth. Our water immunity is simply the result of our planet's environment. Draxil slammed his claw on the table. Impossible. No species can survive constant contact with water. You could destroy us all with a single drop. The room grew tense. Alan knew he needed to demonstrate human harmlessness in a dramatic way. With your permission, he said, I would like to show you something. The council members looked nervous but nodded. Alan signaled to one of his guards, who brought forward a large clear container. This is a portable shower, Alan explained. It contains water that will flow over my body. I will demonstrate that this is normal for humans. The council members backed away, some hiding behind protective shields. Alan stepped into the container and pressed a button. Water poured down over his head and body. Several council members gasped. 2 fainted and fell from their chairs. Even the head counselor turned away. When the water stopped, Alan stepped out and dried himself with a towel. As you can see, water is not a weapon to us. It's part of our daily cleaning routine. The council room was silent for a long moment. Finally, a small blue alien spoke up. If water is so harmless to you, why not use it against your enemies? You could easily defeat any species in the galaxy. Alan shook his head. Earth has strict rules against biological weapons. We would never use water as a weapon, even though we know it's harmful to you. The head counselor seemed relieved, but Draxil was not convinced. I propose we classify Earth as a quarantine zone, he said loudly. No human should be allowed to travel freely in our galaxy. Before anyone could respond, the doors opened. A young human woman in a science uniform rushed in. Excuse me, she said. I'm Amanda Lewis from the Earth Science team. I have important information. The council members looked at her with surprise. Amanda approached the center of the room and placed a small device on the table. We've discovered something unusual, she said. Human sweat contains trace amounts of water, but it also has salts and proteins. When these mix, they create a compound that causes mild hallucinations in several council species. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The head counselor raised his hands for silence. Are you saying humans not only carry water but also produce hallucinogenic compounds? He asked. Amanda nodded. It's very mild, but yes. We believe this might be why some council members reported strange visions after meeting humans. Draxil stood up again. This proves my point. Humans are dangerous and should be contained. Alan stepped forward, or it proves we need to work together. If this effect was unknown to us, what else might we learn from each other? The council members looked at each other uncertain. Some seemed afraid, others curious. The head counselor called for a vote on Draxil's quarantine proposal. As the council members prepared to vote, tension filled the room. The future relationship between humans and the galaxy hung in the balance. The vote passed. 3 days later, the Galactic Council officially classified Earth as a death world and humans as toxin-immune anomalies. The news hit the human delegation hard. They've placed trade restrictions on all human vessels, said Ella Martins as she looked at the official document. We can only dock at special quarantine stations. Ambassador John Williams nodded gravely. He had arrived from Earth to help with the growing diplomatic crisis. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen many difficult negotiations. We need to change their minds, John said. I've requested a special meeting with the full council tomorrow. The next morning, John led a team of 5 humans to the Grand Council chamber. All 50 council members were present, sitting in their elevated seats. Many wore protective gear, and all kept their distance from the humans. John stepped onto the speaking platform. Honorable council members, thank you for meeting with us. I understand your concerns about water, but we believe these restrictions are unfair. Humans pose no threat to the galaxy. Councillor Draxil made a harsh sound. You carry a deadly substance in your very bodies. How can you claim to be harmless? John remained calm. We have lived peacefully on Earth for thousands of years. We have never used water as a weapon, and never will. The debate went on for hours. Some council members seemed willing to listen, while others, led by Draxil, remained hostile. The head counselor tried to keep order, but tensions were high. As John was making his final points, a strange sound came from the ceiling. A few council members looked up nervously. Suddenly, with a loud crack, a water pipe in the chamber burst. A spray of water shot into the room. Chaos erupted instantly. Council members screamed and scrambled to escape. Some fell over chairs in their panic. The emergency alarms blared through the station. "Everyone stay calm," John shouted, but few aliens could hear him over the panic. Without hesitation, the human delegation sprang into action. Ella Martinez grabbed a repair kit from the wall. John removed his jacket and used it to block the worst of the spray. Two other humans climbed onto chairs to reach the broken pipe. The council members watched in shock from the doorways as the humans worked directly under the water spray. Within minutes, the humans had sealed the leak. Water dripped from their clothes and hair, but they seemed completely unharmed. When the crisis was over, the head counselor cautiously re-entered the chamber. "You saved us," he said in a surprised voice. John wiped water from his face. "Of course we did. The leak could have hurt you." A small green council member stepped forward. "You put yourselves at risk to protect us from something that doesn't harm you." "Why?" "Because that's what allies do," John said simply. "We understand water is dangerous to you, even if it's safe for us. Your safety matters to us." The mood in the chamber shifted. Council members began to whisper to each other. Even Draxil seemed less hostile. "Perhaps," said the head counselor slowly, "we have been too quick to judge humans. What you've shown today is not the behavior of a threat, but of protectors." In the days that followed, news of the incident spread throughout the galaxy. The story of humans rushing into deadly water to save council members changed how many species viewed Earth. Videos of the humans working in the water spray were watched billions of times across thousands of worlds. 1 week later, the council held another vote. While Earth remained classified as a death world, humans were now also designated as water guardians, a special status that eased many of the restrictions. It was a small victory, but an important one. However, not everyone was pleased with the changing attitudes toward humans. In the shadows of the council station, Councillor Draxil met with representatives from the Vorn Empire, plotting their next move against the water-immune newcomers. Lieutenant Kevin Phillips floated in zero gravity outside the Vorn diplomatic ship. His spacesuit kept him hidden from their sensors as he attached a small device to their hull. For 3 weeks, he had been tracking unusual Vorn activity near Earth's solar system. "Device planted," Kevin whispered into his communicator. "Beginning scan now." Inside the human space station nearby, Captain Samantha Bell monitored Kevin's progress. After the council had eased restrictions on humans, Samantha had been assigned to investigate why the Vorn still seemed hostile toward Earth. "Getting data now," Samantha said. "Give it 2 minutes to break through their security." The scanning device began sending information to their computers. Images, documents, and navigation charts from the Vorn ship appeared on the screens. As Samantha looked through them, her eyes widened in shock. "Kevin, get back here now," she ordered. "I found something big." An hour later, Kevin joined Samantha and Dr. Michelle Grant in the secure room. The walls were covered with images and data from the Vorn ship. "They've been stealing Earth's water," Samantha explained, pointing to images of Vorn ships hovering over Earth's oceans at night. "These ships use cloaking technology to hide from our sensors." Kevin studied the images. Why would they steal something so dangerous to them? Dr. Grant, a scientist who had been studying alien biology, pointed to another screen. "Because they're using it as a weapon. Look at these blueprints." The screen showed designs for what looked like water cannons. The Vorn had been collecting Earth's oceans to build weapons that could spray water at enemy ships and planets. "We need to alert the Council," Kevin said. "This violates all agreements." Samantha shook her head. "We need more evidence first. The Vorn have many supporters on the Council who won't believe us without proof." Dr. Grant had been working on something that might help. For months, she had studied how different alien species reacted to water. Now she showed them a small vial filled with clear liquid. "I've developed a compound that neutralizes water's effects on silicon-based life forms," she explained. "It doesn't make water safe to drink, but it prevents immediate dissolution on contact." Kevin looked at the vial with interest. "So aliens could touch water without dying?" "For a short time, yes," Dr. Grant said. "But there's something else you should see." She pulled up genetic data from the Vorn. The Vorn aren't purely silicon-based like they claim. They're partially water-based themselves. Samantha and Kevin stared at her in shock. "Are you saying the Vorn are like humans?" Kevin asked. "Not exactly," Dr. Grant explained. "They're a hybrid species. They've evolved to contain small amounts of water in specialized cells. That's why they can handle water better than other Council species." Samantha hit the table with her fist. "So they've been lying to the Council. They'd been pretending to fear water as much as everyone else, while secretly using it for their own gain." The three humans looked at each other as they realized the implications. The Vorn had been manipulating Council politics for centuries, using the galaxy's fear of water to control other species. "We need to infiltrate the Vorn homeworld," Samantha decided. "We need to find concrete evidence of their deception." 2 days later, Samantha led a covert mission to the Vorn planet. Their ship was disguised as a trading vessel, and they carried Dr. Grant's protective compound with them. If discovered, they could use it to protect themselves from any water weapons the Vorn might use against them. As their ship approached the Vorn system, Kevin studied the planet through the view screen. "It looks dry, like most Council worlds," he said. "The surface is dry," Samantha agreed. "But I bet we'll find water underground." Their mission was dangerous. If caught, they would be accused of spying, and war might break out. But they needed to know the truth about the Vorn before it was too late. The future of Earth's relationship with the galaxy depended on what they would discover on the Vorn homeworld. The alarms sounded throughout the Council space station. Emergency lights flashed red as the announcement echoed through every corridor. "Attack alert. 3 Council worlds under attack. All representatives report to the emergency chamber." Commander Benjamin Ortiz rushed through the halls with his team. In the 6 months since the Vorn conspiracy was discovered, tensions had been building. Now the Vorn had finally made their move. Inside the emergency chamber, Council members gathered around the large holographic display. 3 planets glowed red on the map. "The Vorn are using water weapons," said the head counselor, his voice shaking. "They've unleashed floods in major cities on all 3 worlds. Millions are in danger." Images showed the devastation. Water poured through alien streets as residents fled in terror. For species that dissolved in water, it was a nightmare beyond imagination. "We need to act now," said Benjamin. "Earth's fleet is ready." The Council had formed a defensive alliance with Earth after learning about the Vorn's secret plans. Now humans were the galaxy's best hope against the water attacks. "The Vorn have water cannons on their ships," said a Council military officer. "Our vessels can't get close without being destroyed." Benjamin nodded grimly. "But our ships can. Water doesn't harm us. We'll lead the attack." Within hours, Earth's space fleet launched. 20 ships, led by Benjamin's flagship, Aquarius, headed toward the combat zone. The fleet was small compared to the Vorn Armada, but they had a crucial advantage: water immunity. The battle began near the planet Zeta 9. Vorn ships fired their water cannons at the approaching Earth vessels, but instead of dissolving, the human ships flew straight through the water blasts. "All ships, engage combat maneuvers," Benjamin ordered from the bridge of the Aquarius. "Remember your training." For months, humans had been developing new combat techniques that used their water immunity. Now they put these skills to use. Officer Lisa Campbell led a special unit called the Blue Team. They wore specially designed suits that could store and release water. While other human soldiers engaged the Vorn fighters, Lisa's team infiltrated the largest enemy ship. "Move quietly," Lisa whispered to her team. "We need to reach their water storage tanks." The Blue Team moved through the Vorn ship, encountering little resistance. Most Vorn soldiers were busy fighting outside, and none expected enemies inside their own vessel. When they reached the central water storage area, Lisa activated her communicator. "We're in position, Commander," she reported. Benjamin's voice came through clearly. "Proceed with the plan, Officer Campbell." Lisa nodded to her team. They attached devices to the water tanks and backed away. "Devices set," Lisa confirmed, preparing to evacuate. The devices weren't explosives, they were redirectors. When activated, they would send the Vorn's own water weapons back through their ship systems. As the Blue Team escaped to their shuttle, the devices activated. Water flooded the Vorn ship's control systems. The Vorn, who had modified themselves to resist water, still couldn't handle the massive amounts now flowing through their vessel. The main Vorn ship lost power and drifted helplessly. Seeing their flagship disabled, the other Vorn vessels began to retreat. Similar scenes played out at the other two planets under attack. Human ships, immune to the Vorn's primary weapon, turned the tide of battle everywhere they went. When it was over, Benjamin stood before the Galactic Council to report their victory. "The Vorn fleet has retreated to their home system," he said. "Their water weapons proved useless against us." The council members looked at the humans with new respect. For eons, they had feared water as a deadly substance. Now they saw it as a tool of protection in human hands. "Humans have proven themselves true allies," the head counselor announced. "Your unique biology has saved countless lives today." As the council applauded, Benjamin knew this was just the beginning. The Vorn would be back, and the water wars were far from over. But for the first time, the galaxy had defenders who could face water without fear. 1 year after the defeat of the Vorn, the Galactic Council looked very different. The Grand Chamber had been rebuilt, and at its center stood a new symbol, the blue sphere representing Earth, surrounded by stars for each allied species. Ambassador Rebecca Moore walked into the chamber for the final signing of the Aquatic Treaty. She had spent months negotiating the terms that would establish humans as the official protectors of water resources throughout the galaxy. "The Council will now come to order," announced the head counselor. "Today marks a historic moment for our galaxy." Representatives from over 300 worlds filled the chamber. Many species that had once feared humans now considered them their greatest allies. Rebecca took her place at the signing table. Next to her sat Dr. Gregory Nelson, the brilliant scientist who had changed everything. 6 months earlier, Gregory had made a breakthrough. After studying the biology of council species, he developed a technology that could protect silicon-based life forms from water's harmful effects. "The treatment isn't perfect," Gregory explained to a group of journalists before the ceremony. "It doesn't allow them to swim like we do, but it prevents immediate dissolution upon contact with small amounts of water." His invention had transformed galactic society. Species that had lived in fear of water for millennia could now handle brief exposure without harm. It made trade, travel, and cooperation much easier. "We gather today to sign the Aquatic Treaty," Rebecca began her speech. "This agreement recognizes water as a protected resource and establishes Earth as its guardian." The treaty had 3 main points. First, water would never be used as a weapon. Second, humans would help protect and manage water resources throughout the galaxy. Third, Gregory's protective technology would be shared freely with all peaceful species. As Rebecca signed the document, the chamber erupted in applause. The Vorn Empire, now under new leadership after their defeat, had even sent representatives to witness the signing. "This is the beginning of a new era," said the head counselor. "The reformed Galactic Council welcomes Earth not just as a member, but as a central pillar of our community." After the ceremony, Rebecca walked with Gregory through the station's New Earth Cultural Center. Inside, behind protective barriers, were displays showing Earth's oceans, lakes, and rivers. Aliens lined up to see the famous water planet that had changed the galaxy. "Look at this," Gregory said, pointing to a viewing area where a group of alien tourists were preparing to touch water for the first time. The aliens wore Gregory's protective gloves and nervously approached a small pool. Guided by human instructors, they cautiously dipped their fingers into the water. Instead of pain and dissolution, they experienced only a mild tingling sensation. Their faces showed wonder and excitement. "When I first came to the council, they thought water was deadly poison," Rebecca said. "Now they're learning to appreciate it." In the years that followed, Earth became a central diplomatic and military power in the galaxy. Human ships patrolled trade routes, protecting other species from water-based threats. Human scientists worked with alien researchers to study Earth's unique ecosystem. Some brave aliens even began to visit Earth's oceans. Protected by advanced versions of Gregory's technology, they could briefly experience the wonder of standing on a beach or floating in a specially designed boat. The term Water Guardians became a title of honor throughout the galaxy. Children on 1,000 worlds learned about the strange humans who could swim in acid and used this power to protect others. As the sun set over the Galactic Council station, Rebecca looked out at the stars. So much had changed since Ella Martinez first shocked the council by drinking water. A simple biological difference had led to fear, then understanding, and finally alliance. From enemies to protectors, Rebecca whispered to herself, "All because we're immune to water."